I've been thinking a lot lately about MPDs and spiritual warfare. So, one of the things about it is, well, let me not even talk about that. Maybe I should do another video about that. Because then if I go there, then it's going to be hard for me to, focus on the one main topic. So, let me not go there. Or let me not go where I was going to go after I went there. Because I still need to go there. So, to go there, to the first thing, and not the other rant. I've always mentioned, even on other channels, I'm pretty sure, even before the evidence channels, because, it's not like the evidence channels was tied to, my main, channels where, I talked about the truth of the world, obviously. Although I do feel like the whole situation could add to, that truth. But anyhow. I've talked about for years, I can't really breathe right now, how, I had generational Marine Kingdom spirits, the spirit spouse, lust and perversion spirits, which also caused paraphilias, especially since 3, but then it got worse at 4, and then I was at my most possessed point from what was it, I talk about it all the time, 7 to, it was kind of 6 to, well, no, I was at my worst point at 9 to early 12 or more so 7 to 10. And this can even go into something else I've been talking about when it comes to the issues of religious organizations and even a lot of these, now to think about it, very victim-blamey channels. And they still do talk about a lot of true things and things that I've noticed, things that are 100% right. But it's still this prideful hate for poor people and people in certain situations and stuff like that that's tied into it. And I've thought about more and more the past few months how a lot of the things that I've been watching the past couple years, yeah, they're right about most things, but then when it comes to certain things, they get really victim blamey. And there's a lot I could say about that. I saw the one unlisted video that I need to make public, I guess. If I remember, I'll put it in the description. And that was, I can't even really give a main summary. It's just I realized that a lot of the things that I was listening to really didn't apply to me. And this is something I've actually mentioned before throughout the years. I talk about now how there is no safe place for younger people who believe in the Most High. Also, when you know the issues of religion, of course you're not going to fit into those spaces. Then they don't like poor people. Nobody wants to get involved in anybody's bad situation. And then especially if you're younger, I've been in a lot of situations where people have came to me talking about free mentorship and stuff like that, but then they disappear because nobody wants to be in a parent role, obviously. And I get why, because at the end of the day, there's a lot of there's the hypocritical side with that, but there's also the fact, as I mentioned before, that people are still traumatized and trying to raise their self. And another thing is that these people, they're used to doing mentorship or helping or deliverance type stuff on people. I'm not going to say that there aren't any younger people, but they're typically, I'll say a lot of them aren't in the situations that I've been in that make somebody feel even more some type of way, because how do I put it? If you're when people feel like you're in a bad situation, even if you don't think so, and they know they really don't want to get involved, or they either know they don't want to help or they do want to help but they know that they can't, but especially if they know they can and they really don't want to, like, that makes them feel guilty, and so they'd rather just avoid you as a whole, even though you're not, like, asking them for stuff, or, like, you don't even really see your situation as, like, being bad. Yeah, my previous situation, I mean, of course, still now, I'm going to be treated funny by society, and there's still so many realizations that I constantly get reminded of and hit with over and over again that just make things worse. And there's the extra trauma side when it comes to poor treatment and this stuff with police, but other than that, this is still the best my life has ever been, and there's still, like, the freedom side to it. But the point is, like, that caused some issues, so I've talked about that because I don't want to go off on a rant too much. I've talked about the very victim-blamey things, and even things I was listening to about how if you really wanted to fix this and fix that situation and get rich quick scheme, and then you would do this, this, and that, and it's just the mentality of this, and it's your fault that, and none of that stuff is really that helpful. None of it is that helpful, to be honest. And it's really just people that are, like, scraping up other people's money and then bragging about the money that they get from scraping up other people's money to a certain extent. And then it's like, I don't know, the usual fake help, no one cares stuff that I've talked about most of my life at this point. So yeah, there's that side, but there's another side that I talked about before to now hopefully get into it for real. Which is that when it comes to sexual addiction, which I knew this then, it's like, you know, you hear all these people talking about no fap this and pray this and fast this, which once I got really iatrogenically chronically held up, once my iatrogenic chronic illness got worse, and I went from a type 2 category to more of a type 1 category, which I've been gaslit about for forever and a day. That's never going to stop, to be honest, because I've been working on curing my chronic illness, which I talk about pretty often, and I cured I started curing half of my issues a little after escaping and then all that stuff, so I've cured my bacterial overgrowth and different things like that. I have a whole playlist about that. So anyways, once that happened, I really wasn't in the space to really be doing all this, like, not eating stuff to that extent anymore. And also I think that, like, with the type of generational spirits and extra spirits that I would pick up from the trauma, the sexual addiction, and what else was it? There's something I'm missing. The generational curses, I think that's what I was missing. It's like, when you have certain stuff going on, if you want to be honest, fasting makes it worse, but that's, like, even a side thing. One of the main things was that, one, people always feel like I'm not old enough, and I wasn't old enough then for it either. But then it's like, once I got sick, I can't even really do all that anymore because, like, I'm in a constant starvation mode from the iatrogenic organ damage and brain damage and the autonomic nervous system dysfunction. And as I talk about all the time, I dropped down to 80 pounds at 14 and got stuck there, and there was it is a lot of games around that. And so, once I got to the point of the hypoglycemia stuff, it just wasn't. And also I think that with my abuse situation, since, like, even before I got sick from the iatrogenics, there were plenty of times where I really wasn't eating enough anyways. I think that, like, the whole fasting thing could never really work for me like that because I've been too used to not eating my whole life. I think that's another side to it. So that was just, that didn't work for so many different reasons. I'm not even gonna lie, there's a lot of stuff with that. Like, aside from the health issues, I think that I already was too used and am too used to not eating. Although I eat more since being homeless than in my previous situation. And it was something else with that I was gonna say. Crap, hold up. Oh yeah, like I already said, like when you have certain issues, fasting can actually make it worse and cause a lot more issues in warfare, which I mean, I guess that's obviously how that's gonna go. But the main point that I want to get at though is that like something that I would always talk about was that how would I really like fix a sexual addiction and demonization while in the abuse situation that's causing it? Not that like my current situation isn't also like really isolating and wouldn't like what's the word? I mean, it's still also traumatizing to an extent, not like in my previous situation, but there's like just always either being ignored unless it's like a Marine Kingdom agent that's approaching me on some crazy mess. Like always being reminded, like in that video I made a few years ago, that no one actually wants to be around me or any of that unless they think they're going to get something out of me, whether that's SA or make money off of me or use me as an unpaid emotional therapist, all those things. So it's either that or complete isolation, which is honestly better. But of course, one of the biggest things that keeps me from being able to fall back into sexual addiction is the homelessness, obviously. I mean, I guess a lot of people could use that coping mechanism out here, but I wouldn't want to do that because, like, that's like another thing that gets charged for. A lot of homeless people already get put on the sex offender registry just for like having to use the bathroom, even like in an isolated place. That's a very common game that law enforcement plays. And then the whole sexual harassment thing that happened with the Shane Marine Kingdom agent dude and that whole thing with the police. And I have videos where I talk about that. Like, them lying to try to scare me and claim that they had videos of me naked at the grocery store. It did make me think about this for whatever reason. Because it's like, I mean, shoot. But hey, like I said in some other video, I have known homeless people that were just like, well, when I was in Cali at least. There's this one dude, he was always like, hi. He never talked. He was always laying on the ground jerking off and looking sad and depressed. And I felt bad for him. And then people just be looking like, well, okay. And yeah. It's actually really interesting though how people will circle back and forth, at least what I've seen in that community, like when I was in Cali, how people will circle back and forth between substance use and sexual addiction, because that's how it goes anyways. People only see addiction as a bad thing if you're like poor or homeless or depending on what it is. Like most people at this point are paraphiliacs. People are always talking about GAY or straight, but I don't even think it's really that half everybody is even GAY, and I definitely don't think that most people are even quote unquote straight at this point. I think half everybody is a paraphiliac in some form or fashion, and there's some stuff going on that leads back to trauma and the fact that most people, male and female, are either SA'd or have early sexual exposure. And so, I guess this could go on my hypothetically para playlist. I was going to send my Dronophile one, but I'm not really going to talk about the Dronophile thing. But it's just like, hopefully this is even going to make sense in the end, because I kind of went all over the place, as usual. But the point I'm getting at is that this is similar to the first type of videos that I mentioned that I made before, because it's like there's a lot of victim blamey stuff about you just don't want to get over this and you just don't want to do better and you just like this, even though when it comes to heavy demonization, even full-blown possession, like it's not really about what you want to do at that point. A lot of people will like, they'll even play games around that, which that could be a long topic, but the point is, like, it's a coping mechanism. Well, actually, it's more so the generational Marine Kingdom spirits than anything else. But still, it's a coping mechanism for the abuse situation. And how are you really supposed to get over the sexual addiction while still being, or really any coping mechanism? How are you supposed to get over while still being in the abuse situation that caused it in the first place? And I also feel like that's another reason why, I mean, aside from the fact that I'm literally like out in the open, and so now, even more so than in my particular previous abuse situation, kind of, like now people, of course, obviously know that I have no protection. I'm just like visibly out there. So I'm going to attract like a lot of predatory people anyways. Honestly, still not more than I did in my previous situation, because like I was literally in the cash for kids system and stuff. So like you're literally just like thrown in a room with a whole bunch of abusers. So that's still different. And actually, just like in that video I linked in some other video, it was a TikTok video of a homeless a homeless youth. What was it, like, what did he call himself? Outreach person for like homeless youth resources. And he was talking about how people always say, well, homeless youth are just runaways, so make them go back home. And he was like, he can't do that because there's no negotiating someone who is being essayed or abused in whatever way into going back to their abuse and leaving homelessness. Because one of the things about homelessness is that you can choose your environment. If you don't like that place, you can hitchhike, walk, run. I've met plenty of people that have walked to different states. I just met a dude who told me about how when he was like 19, he walked from Louisiana to San Diego and it took 2.5 years. When I was in Cali, I met a boy that told me that he biked and walked to Cali from Texas. And so anywho, the guy was like, they can choose their environment when they're homeless, and they can like train hop somewhere else or whatever in the world. And if something's ever bad somewhere, they can just leave and go somewhere else. And that is one of the big things with it. But I'm not really going to go into that. It just makes me think about that. I don't remember why I went there. Now I got to try to remember that. Crap. Hold up. I don't even remember why I went there, why I got to that point. So I guess I could go back to the other thing. Which is that, what was the other thing? Crap. I think the other thing was, I don't know, I'm just going to go back to the point because I don't even remember why I got there. So to go back to the main point, it's like, it's just more victim blamey stuff. And none of those things that I was constantly told, you just got to do this, do that, and you don't want to do this, and you just got to, and then try this, and talk to this person. None of that stuff even worked anyways. The only thing that's actually worked is being in an environment where, like, I can't fall into any of that stuff because I'm out in the open. Like, even when it comes to the corn addiction, because I know I probably can't say certain stuff, but I mean, of course, I'd never be monetized anyways and don't want to, but that doesn't matter anyways. So let me go back to the point. Anywho, when it comes to the corn addiction, since what was it, like 4, which is a long story of horrors, horrors and chaos. And you know what? It's kind of funny though, because I was already so screwed up before that. It's almost like, I don't even know how much it matters. It definitely didn't help. In fact, I've been meaning to make that video about that time that I accidentally initiated myself into, well, my grandma's house was already haunted, but that time I initiated myself into, like, some type of Luciferian ritual, and I think it also was because of stuff that my dad was doing. Not to me, but, like, because he was a prostitute, and I talked about that back on that, Miss Joe, so I'm not going to go into that either. So, anywho, there's just too much stuff going on at one time in one house at 3 a.m. And to make a long, periodically long story short, I had initiated myself into some Luciferian ritual. And so one of the things about these types of spirits, especially like, okay, so hold up. When I was around my abusers, due to the fact that there was so much abuse going on, and by the way, it's not SA, it was just the usual like Leviathan, octopus spirit, manipulation, chaos, starting arguments over stupid stuff, arguing over who moved a rag for 3 days straight, or was it 7? I still remember that video, or videos. But due to all of that, which this wasn't at my grandma's house, this was at my mom's house, or well, my sister's house. Not gonna go into that. But anywho, the point is that there is so much just demonic activity in these environments that it made the houses just an easy portal for Marine Kingdom spirits, especially, because that's what's over narcissism or personality disorders, quote unquote, in general. So it just made them so easy. It made it so easy for them, if this is coming out right at all, to just come into the house. Well, come into a lot of things, I guess. Come into the house and do whatever they wanted to do, because the environment was just the portal. Like, I feel bad for whoever moves into my sister's house, because they're gonna have to like anoint the walls in every corner, and like they're gonna have to call somebody. They're gonna have to call a couple people. But anywho, or just tear it down and bulldoze it. Anyhow, to go back to the initiation ritual. So, pretty much I was knocked out. Not like I went to sleep, but there was this thing that like, it would happen a lot, like when I was around my mom and them. So like, they knock you out, even if you weren't, you could have even like not been about to go to sleep, and then that's when they start doing the black magic ritual, because the spirit spouse SA rituals is black magic. Well, I mean, all SA rituals are black magic. All, even if it's not SA, even if you think it's consensual, the different fornication and all those different rituals, that's all black magic. And there's definitely different types. Like, if you know about Aleister Crowley and the Lima sex magic, which, well, that's another video too, I guess. So anywho, I was I'm trying to get to the point now. I'm trying to remember exactly. It wasn't that long though, because I had to hurry up and like get myself out of it. But pretty much, so there's like these not swinging tables. It's like, I don't think it's called a pendulum. It's like a table or a bed, I guess. It's almost like a hammock, but it was like made out of metal or something. And like the Catholic Church, they do similar, they have similar rituals to this, and the same ones as well. But when it comes to like the not candles, oh my gosh, this is gonna be so like trashy, but it's like something that they have in the Catholic Church that's used for different Luciferian rituals, like where they light a candle, some metal thing, like some pendulum-like thing that they swing back and forth while they chant. So they had those, and like they had me like on the altar bed thing, and they had like the chains and all of that. And of course, this is like some astral projection type stuff. And so now I'm having flashbacks to something else that happened that I could also make a video about. It was worse than this. I had so many regrets of the after the situation I'm having flashbacks of. But anywho, there's not really much to that. Like, they were just about to do the ritual, but I was able to get myself out of that and wake up, luckily. oh yeah, they were wearing red robes and those different things like that. So there was that situation. But the main point that I wanted to get into is that, like, changing environments and being in an environment where I couldn't fall into any of that stuff is what helped. I've been wanting to talk about this, but I kept forgetting and then stuff kept happening, and then, yeah. And then I wanted to get into the Marine Kingdom agent thing that I mentioned before, because I have a couple videos where I talk about how chomos and R-worders are forms of Marine Kingdom agents, and how, like, I started, like, really working towards avoiding this trap when I was, always, but especially, I think I was 12 then, when I was pushed into the usual, like, what do they call it, baby fever thing? And also the narcissistic mindset that, like, if you have your kid, you're going to treat your kid better than you're getting treated or got treated. I mean, I already knew what that was, that's why I was able to avoid it. And that's the good thing about being lucky to already have certain mindsets. I already knew that was just an agenda to get me put on that path. I doubt I could even have a baby anyways. Especially now. Probably then, because my health is better then. But, anywho, there was even another situation when I was 14, and I remember there was this boy, he was 19, and he started asking me to have sex with him, and I was like, I don't do oral because that's sodomy, I don't do anal because that's sodomy, I don't do the other stuff because that's fornication. And that's how I was always able to get out of those situations. Or at least that's what I knew that helped me, like, avoid that. But it's like, one of the funny things about it, though, with me, I'm definitely skipping something, I know I am. There's something I was supposed to say that I didn't say. But one of the things that, what was I saying? Oh, yeah, okay, so, yeah. One of the funny things about it, though, is that it's actually kind of weird, and this even goes into the whole asexual revolution, I guess I could call it, which many people believe is due to the fact that so many kids are forced on psychotropics starting in infancy these days, and they cause brain damage, libido issues, PSSD, etc., etc. There's a Marine Kingdom side as well, because, like, the spirit spouse also may sometimes not want you to get with anybody but them. But it was always weird that, like, even as hypersexual as I always was, I was always able to, like, get myself out of situations where, like, I did have the chance to actually, like, have sex with other people. And the funny thing is, until I started making these videos recently, I could never say the word sex without, like, I still feel, like, upset and scared and not flashbacky. I just could never really say it. I still can't really. Not to another person, but, like, it's gotten easier since I started making the paraphilia videos, actually, I think. And that was not that long ago. But I made so many of them so quickly because it's always been my favorite topic, along with MK Ultra and DID. And so, anyhow. So, yeah. It's like I was always able to get myself out of those situations, and it's just really weird. And it's like, what was I gonna say? But yeah, so going back to the corn addiction, because I'm forgetting so much stuff. Like, when you're out here and you often don't have a phone or Wi-Fi or any of that, that's easy to not do, or you're just like, just a situation. Like, and then also it's good for NoFap as well. Actually, I'm going the wrong way. It's good for both of those things, for NoFap and corn addiction. And then that goes into another thing. People, like, a lot of the, I don't know. What was I gonna say? Oh yeah, like, when it comes to, like, the NoFap community, I mean, yeah, there's a lot of videos in that community that don't even focus on the spiritual side. And then there's also a lot of different, like, spiritual beliefs in that community when it comes to, like, the different reasons why people are trying to contain their sexual energy. But some of that is also pretty victim blaming. I guess I feel like a victim to it, to be honest. But a lot of that stuff is also pretty victim blaming, and it's just talking about people don't want to do and not people don't want to do, it's talking about what people supposedly want to do. But honestly, it was never something that I did want to do. In fact, I feel like, well, I can't even say that, because even before then I was already so screwed up in the head. Like, I don't even know if victim is a word for it, but like, when I had the first person that I consider my victim, that was at 4, but I was also told about another situation that I actually don't remember, but I remember being told about it at 4, which was funny enough a little before the first victim thing, as I'm calling him. And what was I going to say with that? Oh yeah, I was told that I was chasing some boy around, trying to kiss him. I don't remember who it was. And even like when I was sexually acting out in elementary, I remember there was this one situation in 5th grade where this one girl said that she used to be friends with me when I was 4. Now, I didn't remember ever knowing this girl a day in my life. So I thought that, like, she was just, like, saying this to make fun of me or whatever, as a lot of people would do. Because it's kind of like there was definitely a side of, like, people fearing me due to this, and then also a side of, like, it also being, like, kind of like a laughing matter. And then, like, these were, like, Southern, also racist, but Southern white Christian teachers. And so, like, since I mostly liked the girls when I was 5 to, what was it? At this point, like, I guess, like, 5 to 10 more so, because I was, like, 10 in this situation, or 11. Well, I was 10 in this situation, but I'm saying, like, 5 to 11. It's like, that's what made, like, the teachers feel some type of way. I mean, of course, nobody really cared that much, but, like, they would just talk junk about me and call me evil for that. That's why, during the evidence channels, I talk about how, like, I was treated better when I was seen as evil than when I was seen as quote-unquote retarded. Once I moved to my mom and the Cash for Kids system, and label stuff started, which was always really funny to me. That's irrelevant, but I just think about that when it comes to this. But it's like, so if I would have been doing all this stuff to boys, and like, would it have been okay? That's always been like a weird thing to me. And of course, since I was like already so screwed up, I also got accused of hundreds of things and lied on for things that I didn't do and honestly would never do. But due to like the issues I already had, teachers just believed it or claimed to believe it anyways. And of course, like, when you're a quote-unquote chosen one, teachers and stuff, and people already aren't going to like you. And then, like, if you have these types of, like, trauma symptoms and stuff going on, it's going to make stuff worse. Although I feel like most people up under the quote-unquote chosen one label, well, I won't say most, but I would say, like, a lot of the ones that they didn't do half the things that I did. Which actually reminds me of something. This is something else. Like, okay, let me just say it first before I forget. So, like, I used to always feel like that was, like, the main issue, and that, like, once I got over, like, the hypersexuality and stuff, then, like, I'd be okay, and then, like, I wouldn't be treated funny, and, like, a lot of things would change. But honestly, that's some bullcrap. This is going to be so all over the place, but that's some bullcrap, though, because that's really not true. And like, it even makes me think back to this one situation with this one. Honestly, I believe then that this lady was a witch, but this one quote unquote deliverance lady, this was a little before I escaped my abuse situation. This was after I tried to escape the first time. Another story. And so, like, there's this one point in time, in fact, I mentioned this lady before. This is the same lady that, I guess to try to make sure that, like, she didn't end up in some type of friend or parent role or mentor or like guidance type role. She went ahead and told me from the get-go, I'm not your friend, I'm just doing a job. Which her job was, and it's like I already knew the issues of mainstream religion, but it's like things like this and like the homeless community stuff with the fact that like it's just like a bunch of like chomos and people who hate poor people running these organizations or quote unquote resource centers. It all just it made things worse, but I had already realized by the time I was 8 that like the things that I was researching and finding out about weren't things that religious people liked or believed in and that most of them would never want to hear. I didn't even know till very recently, like, especially with the celestial situation, even some other people that talk about similar stuff, I didn't know till very recently how controversial the fact that America's Mystery Babylon was. Like, I used to think that everybody knew that, but I guess not. But anywho, so yeah. The lady said that whole I'm not your friend thing, and then she was like, I'm sensing in the spirit. No, she wasn't. I'm sensing in the spirit that most of the problems in your life is because you have no self-control. And at that point in time, I still had like a lot of guilt and shame about like sexually acting out in elementary school, because mind you, I haven't been to middle or high school. And so, well, honestly, I've been mostly isolated since 5th grade because of my abuse situation. Like, I haven't really known anybody or been around people my age since then, to be honest. Which I think actually adds to, like, some guilt feelings. Because, like, even though it's unrealistic that I would still be friends with anybody from then if I was, quote-unquote, normal, it's like I still do think about that because that was the last chance I had to, like, make, quote-unquote, friends or whatever. But anywho, the lady said that in, like, at that time, due to the guilt and shame, I was, like, kind of believing. I felt like, I mean, I knew it wasn't true, but, like, I did still kind of believe it. Kind of like a cognitive dissonance type thing. Because of, like, elementary bullcrap and stuff that I did when I was 3 and 4. And even that actually is really victim blaming, because it's like with the abuse situation that I was in, and even, like, going into my current situation, it's like, you know, stuff like that, it's really not true, and it's, like, stuff to, like, blame. I mean, I could put the age thing in it, like, blame a kid for, like, things they have no control over, but the age thing wouldn't even matter when it comes to, like, people just trying to blame somebody for things that they haven't and aren't doing, and I don't know, like, I'm not even really sure what was even supposed to have been meant by that, to be honest. It's like I thought so much about elementary bullcrap, and mind you, at this time I was, I guess, like, this wasn't even that long ago, at all. This was, like, right before I escaped, so I would say I had to have been, like, 16, so it's like, and I first thought about, like, elementary stuff when she said that, but I think she was a witch anyway, so I thought that then. And that's another reason to watch out for this stuff, because, you know, I learned a long time ago to never let people lay hands on you. Until this day, I have, like, all types of pedophile priests and stuff. I'm not talking about the Santa Cruz thing. I know I mentioned that a lot. I'm not even talking about that. Till this day, I have all types of pedophile priests run up on me, talking about praying for me and laying hands on me. Because, of course, these people, they, like, work at the resource centers. And even, like, I'm in the South again. So, of course, I'm going to run into that all the time, compared to, like, when I was in California. So, like, what was I saying? Crap. I think, like, I got kind of flashback and then I kind of drifted off a little bit in my head. But, yeah, so, luckily I already know not to let people lay hands on me anyways, but especially with, like, the constant run-ins with these chomo priests and just different chomo religious people, and also just, like, deranged Jezebel, let me help you lunatic religious people, I definitely, like, avoid these people. And this makes me think back to the situation with the deliverance lady and even other people like her, because it's like a lot of people, they do end up, like, running into these people or even going to these people, and these people are witches that actually cast spells on you and put more spirits in you and different stuff like that. It's like, honestly, anytime somebody comes to me talking about Catholic, Christian, church, religion, prayer, I avoid them. As funny as that may sound to some people, I've never been into all that religious stuff like that anyways, to be honest. Like, I know people get confused when they hear that, especially obviously because the topic of this video, but like all that pagan Christian, pagan Catholic, Freemason, Caesar Borgia stuff, and like, even, I mean, there's so much I could say about that, but I don't trust any of those people. And most of those people, I know it's gonna sound funny coming from me with everything I just talked about, but it's like, they're deranged and they're really not safe. And I know, like, with the topic of this video, people are gonna be like, well, who in the world are you to call somebody? But like, on some serious stuff, and it's definitely not safe to even be around, I mean, in general, but obviously not being around people like that, or like even giving people like at the time of day in my situation that I'm in now, because it's like, I mean, in my previous situation, I had no protection. Hold up. Am I even still recording? In my previous situation, obviously, I had no protection. But of course, in my current situation, I visibly have no protection, obviously. So that does nothing but give, like, predatory people of all type, like, a green light to try and do whatever. And luckily, I know better than to fall into a lot of things. Hold up, because the pad is stuck to me. Crap. I know better than to fall into a lot of things. I got to pause this. I don't even remember what I was saying, because that hurt. But yeah, so then there was one, oh yeah, I think the last thing, I'm definitely forgetting something, but I think the last thing was to go back into the Marine Kingdom agent thing. And kind of like into the thing that I kind of mentioned when I was 12, like the generational curses and like the demons trying to push you into like falling into the cycle of I guess I could say, I don't even like the whole teen pregnancy thing, because people are like making it about an age and not the reason people are getting pregnant and by who. Because like I've always said, which I've always been seen as weird for it, especially like when I would talk about this at 8, people used to get married a lot younger. Like, it still wasn't that long ago, as I always say, where people were dropping out of high school at 14, getting married and working in factories, especially to try to escape their family systems. In fact, that's actually the common reason for these early marriages and stuff. But like, teenagers aren't children, all that stuff, blah 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 blah. But the main point is that it's not really the age that people are getting pregnant that's the issue. I mean, if they're like, I guess maybe like under 14 or something, or under 16, then yeah. But people are like, they've been getting pregnant by chomos, or if they're the boy, it's the other way around. And the chomo has the baby. They're getting pregnant and getting in quote-unquote fake relationships. No, not quote-unquote fake. Quote-unquote relationships that are fake, I mean. And they're looking for love in all the wrong places, all that stuff. And commonly, the big thing was that people were having babies by chomos. That's the bigger thing. And so, people focus on, people focus on the age, but the age isn't even really the issue. So I'm just going to say, like, having babies too young and for the wrong reason, and of course like 12 would be too young anyway. So yeah, I like knew that it was an agenda to get me to fall into that, and so I made sure to work on avoiding. I don't think I can get pregnant, like I already said, but even just like, it's actually like a really scary thing though, because like, as I've said before, and I even have a video that I made a few years ago, I think at this point, on here titled The Soul Destroying Active Essay. I don't even know if I really mentioned this part, but like, even with the quote-unquote consensual stuff, there's just soul ties everywhere, so orgy in the spirit realm, so much trauma, so much fractures, your DNA going into somebody, their DNA going into you, their personalities and demons and stuff going into you, and vice versa. And all this stuff eventually makes you a quote-unquote narc schizo. That's why the quickest way for somebody to become schizo is being a prostitute or even extreme SA, especially from infancy. Although that could also be DID, but schizo means split minds, and as I always say, all mental illness is different forms of double-mindedness from trauma. But either way, like, it's really important if you have like the option and the choice to really make sure that you avoid the Marine Kingdom agents that run up on you, like all the different chomos and all that stuff. It's like, this is the main thing I'm avoiding now. And like, to really get to the point, one of the things about it, like I said before, is that the spirit spouse will hop into different people, because half everybody's open. Most people are open. That's why I always found it weird when people like have this conversation about how to know if you have a demon. I don't see a reason for anybody to not have demons or have a demon. And the number one reason for demonization in the Western world is abuse. And everybody thinks abuse is normal. And religion and the trauma-based mind control from colonization and stuff is one of the main things that's pushed this idea that taking your kids and family and your wife through MK Ultra is God's discipline. Which there's so many issues with that. Like, even the ineffable name doctrine, like, it's very obvious that everybody's God, or well, most people's God is Baal and Molech, but I'm not even going to go into that. The point is that, like, what was I saying? I don't even know, but like, oh yeah, I was talking about how everybody's open and the spirit can just like, not even the spirit hops into different people. A lot of people have, and it's like a big issue in certain places. Like, America already has the principality perversion, but it makes me think about something I talked about since 14 that I noticed when I first went to GA. GA is one of the places with a principality perversion. It's one of the alphabet hotspots, just like the land with all the European serpent seed fake J3Ws. That starts with I and ends with L, that land. That's the alphabet capital of the world, actually. And of course, they're the Chomo capital. That's where they're all also sent to escape charges and quote-unquote persecution with Jeff. And so, and you already know they like trap their own kids, and I've met plenty of those people personally, but I'm not going to go into that. So that's another one of the capitals. And something that you'll see with these places is that everybody, male and female, has been essayed their whole life, R-worded in adulthood, still getting essayed by relatives in adulthood, and everybody's turned out. The kids, the adults, all that stuff. Like, honestly, I feel like the dude I talk about pretty often, Marcus from ATL Street Interviews, Boule, Freemason, Chomo, bipedal dude, who's always running around forcing people to tell him if they've been essayed or not in quote-unquote interviews. Or, well, I don't think that's what I meant to say, but I'm going to keep going. But yeah, so here's like a really good example of the ATL issues, to be honest, or the Georgia issues. And then you also notice when it goes back to, going back to documentaries like, I don't remember the name of it, but the different documentaries about street kids and boy prostitution, or really human trafficking. There's documentaries like the LA one, titled Children of the Night or something. Like, maybe that's not the title, I don't know, but if I remember I'll put it in the description. But I talk about that often. The Children of the Night youth shelter, whatever, that was, funnily enough, funded by Playboy, the human trafficker. And then there was one I watched about boy prostitution in ATL, Dallas, Texas, Houston. And all these places are known for all types of perversion and STDs and all types of stuff. And so I noticed what on the ATL documentary that I watched, this was a few years ago at this point, I think, someone in the comments even pointed out how you now notice that, like, these places are now the alphabet capitals, because all of it goes back to trauma. And so I'm trying to remember what point I was getting at with this, really. But I don't know. But this has always been my favorite topic. And since I was 6, but especially at 8, which I forgot to mention, which I mention this all the time, when I was 8, I of course already knew about lust spirits and all that, but that's when I did more research and found out about the incubus and succubus spirits. But I don't think I had ever really heard the term marine kingdom till I started doing research on my abuse and the clinical terms of my abuse, and I found out about narcissistic family system and parents, and the Jezebel spirit Leviathan, the octopus spirit, which is for mind control. And one of the funny things about that is that I used to play Saints Row 3, which I should never play, really. And there was this one weapon on there, because I don't know what I can and can't say. And it shot octopuses, and when the octopus would land on the person's head, you would be able to control the person and put them under mind control. And knowing what I know now, that's really interesting, since the octopus spirit is a mind control spirit that goes along with manipulation, gaslighting, other terms that I can't remember right now. I can only remember those two. Projection, scapegoating, etc., etc. And so there was something else. There's something else I'm forgetting. But oh yeah, I remember now. So I was getting to the point that the more you abstain from the sexual addiction, the more angry the demons are going to get, because like they have an assignment from Hashatan, and they have to complete that assignment, and then if they don't, then they get punished for it. And so it's going to be more mental, physical, and spiritual warfare, and they're going to send more Marine Kingdom agents after you. So I'm never around people my age, so of course with that, even if I wasn't in the situation I'm in now, it's always going to be Chomo sex preds. Those are always going to be the, well, not always, but those are going to be the main Marine Kingdom agents. And then I'm in a place like I'm in now where, like, that's one of the big principalities. So, of course, I'm going to be running into Chomo Marine Kingdom agents on a daily basis. Like, most of the dudes around here, they like dudes, they like transgender guys, and they like kids. And something I realized, especially, well, I don't know, I just realized this a few, no, it wasn't that long ago. I would say about a year ago, I realized that, like, a lot of guys like transgender kids, whether they're, like, born a boy or born a girl, like, either way, like, they like transgender adults, but a lot of them like transgender kids even more. And it's like, it's really, when it comes to, like, having all these different pairs at once, really that's what pansexual would really mean. And that even goes back to Peter Pan, but that's also another topic. They're one of the many occultic meanings behind Peter Pan, especially the original one. So, anywho, there was something else. So yeah, like, I just noticed, like, there's just so many of them. I was even talking to a lady about it earlier. She was telling me about how she's just so tired of these dudes and she's just ready to get the heck out of here for a lot of reasons, but that's a big one. Had to send her daughter to go live with a relative because just the different games and just different stuff. I mean, this wasn't the main reason, but, like, there's also that reason because, like, so many guys and even women, they like to get with people just to get with their kids. And then it's like, you'll notice that like these quote-unquote parents are like fighting their kids over their boyfriends and girlfriends. And in fact, I was about to mention this weird video I saw on Facebook, and people are like, why would she even record this and post this? And it's like, I don't really know what the full situation was, but she was, quote unquote, from what she said, recording her relative, the auntie or something, or cousin, that was turning out all her kids, and how she had to run her out the house. And so there was that. I don't really know what to say about that, but there was it. So I guess that's related enough. Although, like, I don't even know, like, if I should even go into this topic because it's kind of irrelevant. But when people talk about, like, I don't know what I can and can't say. incest, if I even spelled that right. Like, people talk about, like, cousins and stuff, but it's like, I mean, are you talking about first cousin or second cousin or third cousin? Or maybe I'm sounding southern right now, but it's like, there's that. But then it's like, when it comes to, like, parents and stuff, I mean, it's just full-on abuse. Like, the cousin stuff, that's kind of like, there's a lot of things with that, because, I mean, like the doctors and teachers drill into people's head, you're going to experiment with whoever's closer to you. But it's like, I mean, I thought that, like, when it was, like, a second, third cousin, I didn't even think that was really considered incest, but that's kind of irrelevant, though. Well, that's just something I've thought about. Anywho, so, yeah, so, that's a really big agenda, though. And, like, when it comes to a lot of, I guess I could say, high-ranking abusive Jezebels, or quote-unquote high-ranking narcs, or whatever in the world, you're always going to look back and you're going to see the essay. Like I always mention with my parents, of course, their first boyfriend and girlfriend were chomos. And I even mentioned this thing with, like, how for a lot of people, which I also noticed with my dad, when they're younger, they date older people or chomos. They're geronophiles when they're younger, and then they become chomos when they get older. In fact, that also reminds me of another thing, which is that one of the chomo guys that's always approaching me on some weird stuff, in fact, going back to the religious thing, because he came up to me some other day, and he was like, I love you in Jesus' name. And I was like, but it's so weird, though, because it sounds really familiar. Like, I feel like somebody else said that same stupid crap to me, some other guy, which one probably did, because like I mentioned before, since these are all the same demons, like, they say the same things. Like, it's just been the same Marine Kingdom agents saying the same things to me over and over again. And when it comes to the generational curses, they're going to want, pretty much the moral of the story is that they want you to get molested, and then that'll screw you up, and then that's, like, more trauma and more demonization. And then when it comes to, like, getting over sexual addiction, they're going to keep sending Marine Kingdom agents at you because they want to reinstate the covenant or do something else to traumatize you. So that's why they have to send the chomos and the R-worders. Now, for somebody who may, like, be in another situation, or maybe you're older, of course you can still get R-worded, but, like, maybe for just different situations, they may just send, like, some boyfriend or girlfriend your age or some person to come marry you and claim that they're, like, your chosen spouse that you're supposed to have, but really they're not. It even makes me think about Pastor Stephen Darby's video that he made years ago, titled, The Devil Sends People To, or Satan Sends People To, something like that. But, anywho, that's, like, one of the main agendas, and I've been wanting to make this, and I already have talked about this a couple times before. And in fact, I think that, like, the video titled Chomos and Marine Kingdom Agents or something like that, or Sex Preds or Marine Kingdom Agents, I don't even really remember. That may be one of, like, my first videos in my hypothetically paraphilia whatever in the world is titled playlist. So there's that. And so this is something that I have to, like, avoid, like, a lot right now. this is like a really common generational curse. Like I talk about, I mean not generational curse, cycle. I mean it is that too, but I meant to say cycles of life because that's what I've been calling it. In fact, that's even, like I said, that's why I made the part 1 and the part 2 about the Miss S lady and what was her name? Miss S, the J lady, yeah, that was her name, or that's what I was calling her, J. I talk about the situation with the Miss S, so let me help you lunatic / real woman of God, quote unquote, that talks about herself in third person like Cardi B and Elmo. In fact, there's a term I've had for years. I call these people Cardi B Elmos. And another joke that I've made about it is that, like, since industry people don't write their own songs, I wonder if, like, with the Cardi B situation, like, they forget that they shouldn't write the songs in third person. But, anywho, I talk about the situation with the J lady and how, like, it's just like the same thing over and over again. And I feel like especially when it comes to quote-unquote empaths or anointed or prophetic people / scapegoats or what is now being called targeted individuals and all those different terms. Chose one if I didn't already say that. When most people, and of course people like that, escape abusive family systems or they get dumped out of foster care or kicked out, they typically end up stuck homeless the rest of their life. That's why, like, I guess I could say aside from the newer generation of homeless that are, like, becoming homeless and will be with the inflation and the dollar falling, aside from those people, you'll see the typical person that's been out here since they were 14, 7, 12, 16, 18, 20, whatever. You'll see that most people get stuck due to various reasons with continuous trauma from being treated like crap and not having basic needs met. The spiritual warfare that goes along with being treated like crap and traumatized, and like the hard part to accept of knowing that you'll probably never have parents or a family, although I wouldn't trust anybody to even be in a parent role because that just like equals abuse. But even like during the abuse situation, people they have trouble accepting the fact that they're never going to have like a family or whatever, and that's like also a lot of trauma and spiritual and mental warfare with that. And then I'm forgetting something. Oh yeah, the fact that there's no help, which is why people end up out here in the first place, to save their self because they got kicked out and there's no help. So there's that. And so people get stuck. And that's one of the, pretty much like, I guess that could be a summary of like the main cycle of life that I talk about in the Miss S and J Let Me Help You Lunatic videos. And I even talk about the situation with the lady's grandson, which there's actually something else that I could add in there that I was told before Jay had left on the Greyhound. And she was doing her usual manipulative real woman of God stuff, and from what Jay told me, her grandson was like, you're not going to play with me like that, and you need to stop playing with the Holy Spirit like that. But it's like, it's all really weird though, because it's like, I mean, her grandson says that, but he doesn't like homeless people, and he's upset because of her quote-unquote fake helping them. Really, she's just taking advantage of people and elderly people and disabled veterans and trying to steal all their Social Security or whatever. So, like, it's all really a game, and that can even go back to, like, the religious game stuff with it all, because it's like, I mean, you call her out, but then you don't like homeless people. But anywho, to get to the point with that, though, that I was really going to go into, he's, like, at high risk of being out here, too, unless he has someone else, which I think he does. I remember being told that he had some godfather or something, which is good, if that's true, but it's also kind of like, I mean, if this person was that helpful, then wouldn't he be living with them? But hopefully that goes well, though, because it's like, other than that, I mean, he's just going to be out here, too. And he turned 15 during the whole time of the situation with the S&J thing. And Jay had even told me that the grandson told Miss S, that she only has 3 more years with him. And that's another thing too as well. It's like you're told to hold on to dear life till a certain age, and then you're gonna get to like have a normal life and have a child, but none of that stuff is true. All that is bull crap. You're never gonna have what you need, but maybe you'll get what you're destined to get, possibly, if you're not unalive, driven insane, locked up for the rest of your life for no reason, or for some reason, or you unalive yourself, or whatever in the world. I think I already said the whole driven crazy part. It's kind of like, that even goes back into how like it's all really like a sick joke, and it's all kind of like a simulation. But yeah, so moral of the story is, no, I forgot another main point with the cycles of life thing and the J lady. So it sounds like she's just ran into what I like to call let me help you lunatics, which are Marine Kingdom agents and a couple other things, over and over again her whole life, aside from being in the cash for kids system and being locked up most of her life, and then just being thrown out into the world after she was let out of the cash for kids system at about 21. And the first thing that ended up happening, she'd already been essayed and stuff, but the first thing that ended up happening was that she ended up being married to some like 47-year-old, so Marine Kingdom agent right there, and then of course everything went downhill from there. And that's pretty much how the cycle goes. You get it's just like sexual predators are like a really, really big thing that's like pushed at people to screw them up and to ruin their life. And that's why it literally is, I can't really say that word, but it literally is red rum, because it's like those people, they play a really, really big role in like ruining your life. And so anywho, the point is like I've just noticed like the more and more I work on like I guess I could say getting out of the trap of the Marine Kingdom, the more Marine Kingdom agents that are sent. Like even earlier today, just some hours ago, like I said, they're all 40 to like 80, or more so 40 to 79. One of the guys was talking about he just turned 62. And it's like, that's another thing with it too, because it's like, what do these guys really expect to be able to do to me when they can't even walk? And then it's like, I have health issues, so are we just both gonna have a stroke in the bedroom and die? It just doesn't even, I don't know what they really, like aside from just doing the ritualistic act, or trying to, because like we're probably both we're gonna die probably. My blood sugar's gonna drop to 50. He's gonna have a stroke or a heart attack or something. But anywho, well, that's a separate dude actually. The dude I was just gonna talk about, because I kind of went to a separate thing, that sat down to give me a quote unquote talk, which is very reminiscent of well, let me not even go into that, because then I'll be somewhere else, because I have a whole video about that as well. So anywho, he told me he's like 59, and it's like, if they could at least just like not be older than my dad, which is kind of sarcasm, because I'm not trying to be like that girl who's been quote unquote dating 45-year-old since she was 12, that in that thumbnail that was like, I would never get with a 60-year-old. I draw the line at 45. I don't want to draw the line. In fact, it's like, this is why I've been going more and more into like just being what I guess is considered asexual and having a sex aversion, which I already was having anyways due to like just the aftermath of like being hypersexual. Well, no, not even really that. It's like often you're going to go back and forth into extremes. And I remember I used to talk about this with this European J through W lady who was SRA, high-level SRA, trapped by her family her whole life until she escaped. We used to talk about this often, how like you develop pairs and you'll often go back and forth between hypersexuality and sex aversion, especially after like serious, like extreme ritual abuse like what she went through. And that wasn't even my situation. I just got aversion just due to things that I did, and then it was like, I don't know how to put that, but anywho, dang, I keep hopping around the point. So the dude was like, he pretty much just started preaching. Like, I don't even remember what he said. And this is actually, it's really funny though, because there was another dude who did the same thing. There was this other dude, this is during Thanksgiving. This was at a Catholic church food event where they like give out food to the community. And I was sitting with this lady that I talked to pretty often. No, this was before that happened. Never mind. Because now I'm skipping stuff. This was before I even sat down at the table. This dude came up, and like you could tell that like he was just like the usual like weird, demonized religious person. Because it's just like a lot of prideful ways about himself, and it's like he was just like preaching and quoting scripture the whole time and like trying to have these stupid debates. And one of the first thing he did was ask me if I was legal. Now, of course, anytime somebody's chasing you around asking you if you're legal or asking you if you're grown, whatever that even really means, of course, they're going to be, well, I mean, obviously they're a chomo, but it's like, this is a lot I could say about that, really, because they're predatory in general. And it actually reminds me of that. And this is something I run into a lot in the South. And it's also really reminiscent of the Santa Cruz priest that was always chasing me around saying, you're a beautiful 13-year-old and I'm not going to let you tempt me with your prostitution that didn't exist. And there's a lot I could say with that. But the main thing is that like all Marine Kingdom agents, they like use the same lines. Like in early 2023, I was stuck in Birmingham, Alabama for 2 weeks. And there was this dude who was, of course, a Marine Kingdom agent. I had a lot in common with him, though, which reminds me of another guy that reminds me of my mom's boyfriend. Not because my mom's boyfriend was a sexual predator, because luckily he wasn't, out of other boyfriends my mom had before I moved in with her, at least. But like there was the feminine thug persona side with the narky side with the high intelligence side, to where like I could have a conversation with them. Like I even remember when I was in Cali, there was this dude that I guess I could call him like meth head Rob. Well, no, I don't think he did meth. I think he said he did heroin, because what did he say? People who do meth, no. What was it? People who do heroin don't give a crap about anybody, so I do meth. Or either it was the other way around, which reminds me of something else as well. But let me not even say that, because then, oh my gosh. But anywho, the meth head Rob, heroin, whatever in the world he was on, I remember he was like, it's unfortunate that the only person I can have a conversation with is a teenage girl, or something like that. That was in late 2023. But anywho, back to the Birmingham, Alabama dude. This is so all over the place. So, what did he say? Crap. Oh yeah, he said I was wearing a mask because I was trying to hide how beautiful I was, or something like that. And then a year or so later, in a whole nother state, probably across the country, it was across the country, I had a couple other people say the same thing to me, because all Marine Kingdom agents say the same thing. And then they also like to do this whole, you're used to those little boys, but what you really need is a grown man, because a grown man will whatever in the world comes after that, and different stuff like that. And honestly, no, I'm not used to those little boys, because I've never been around people my age that much, really, and I've never dated anybody. Which, of course, I don't tell them that, but like, you should make sure you never tell people that if you're in that situation, because it gets them more excited, because then it makes them feel like, so they're going to be your first boyfriend, and they're going to be the one to turn you out and all that stuff. And you don't want to like give them the happiness that goes along with that idea. And so I think this could be like a part 1, even though this is almost like 2 hours, I guess, because I think that's everything. Or at least that's like the main points that I wanted to mention. And the unfortunate thing is that like when you're in, dang, I almost fell, when you're in the area where like Marine Kingdom activity is like worse, which makes sense because, well, I don't want to say where I'm at, but actually now to think about it, yeah, because it makes sense. I mean, aside from being in the South, because the South is like really big for Marine Kingdom agents or Marine Kingdom activity anyways, but I just thought about something else. And so, yeah. But yes, like, most of the dudes around, they like their own kids, or quote unquote like, which that even goes back to the whole Aleister Crowley thing, where he was like, love is the law and love is the only law. And of course, everybody should know what he meant by that. And it's like, people are always running around talking about some love all, Jesus love, whatever in the world. But none of it is real love. And it can even go back to the whole nobody gives a crap about anybody, but more so the fact that it's all like perverted love. And like, it even makes you think back to the Chomo Shane dude, obviously because of how that whole situation was. And it's like, I'm glad his daughter moved away, but I hope his son's able to move out too. But it's like, and then it's like, still, it's so weird how like around here, when you won't let somebody R-word you, they call the police on you. Like, how dare you not? And then it's like, and then the police will really sit there and like talk crap to you and question you about why you don't want to get molested. And I mean, anybody with sense wouldn't like the police anyways. I never liked them because of their, I mean, aside from the Freemason side, like their role in human trafficking and abuse, child abuse, all that, obviously. But that's like a weird phenomenon around here. Like, when you won't let people hurt you and do that to you, they can just call the police. But that's like a really big thing for like homeless people anyways. Like, people calling the police on people when they won't let them essay them and all that stuff. Okay, actually, so last 2 things. I'm pretty sure I never finished the whole story with the girl in 5th grade because I went off on a whatever tangent. Maybe I did, but I don't think I did. So to finish that off, some girl in my class had said that she used to be friends with me when she was 4, and her mom told her she had to stop playing with me because I tried to kiss her. I don't remember any of that at all. Even then, I didn't remember ever knowing the girl before. And then I asked my mom about it, and then she said that I did know the girl before, and that we did used to be friends, but I never tried to kiss her, and that's not why we stopped being friends or quote-unquote friends or whatever. But I always just assumed that maybe it was actually true, and my mom was just lying about it, and that the girl was telling the truth, but I don't remember her, so I don't really know what to say about that. And then, another thing I wanted to say is how, like, I don't like when old guys, quote-unquote, flirt with me by telling me that I remind them of their kids, and that I'm funny just like their daughter, their granddaughter, their grandson, or whatever it is. And these are the same types of people whose family or kids had to escape them, and then they like to take credit for like their kids, quote-unquote, making it. I say quote-unquote because like I don't really like the whole Matrix sense of like you're only, pretty much the whole you need to do what you're supposed to do, you need to get a career thing. But even the Miss S lady did that. Like, her kids didn't even talk to her unless they wanted her to watch the grandkids, or and of course there was the one grandson that had been living with her since he was a baby, and like apparently his dad's in prison, but his dad is also rich somehow. I don't really know how, but so like yeah, anywho, other than that, they don't really talk to her, but Miss S was always talking about how successful her kids are, but it's very obvious that they mostly escaped her and barely contact her. But then it's like they'll still bring their kids around her to go through the chaos. And of course I would assume that like the mom isn't safe. Other than that, the grandson would just live with her. But it's like I mean, the common thing is when it's like the dad is either not allowed around or he's in jail or just off wherever. And then the thing with the single mom with a whole bunch of kids or multiple kids. And then the Jezebelic family system, the Jezebelic grandma, which means that 9.99,000 out of 10, the mom is Jezebelic too, and the dad probably is. The granddad, he's pretty much in like, we're all really just like either okay with the Marine Kingdom or we're trying to get delivered from it and escape it and not fall into the traps and cycles of that perversion, the predator spirit,